Hello there, and welcome to the show, and today I'm going to be talking about AEW Double or Nothing 2025. This show took place live on May 25th, 2025, going head-to-head with WWE NXT Battleground. This show came to us from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. AEW and Tony Khan made the right call, finally, by moving Double or Nothing out of Las Vegas. That was the right call, so I'll give him a point for that one. This show had an attendance of just over 8,100 people. Let's talk about the show. Before getting into the show, best wishes to Jim Ross. The show started off with Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter. This was the finals of the Women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Hayter beat Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander to earn her spot in the finals. Moné beat Julia Hart and Athena. Jamie Hayter, she's been back in AEW for about a year, and yes, she does look and feel like discount Becky Lynch. Mercedes Moné, to be honest, I am completely over her run. I think it's time for her to have her first proper loss in AEW. I don't think she's doing anything to really build the division. Just not a fan of her recent work. She still produces solid matches, but just not a fan of the story they're telling with her. I was not a fan of this match. To me, this is the weakest opening match to a pay-per-view that AEW has had all year. I was not a fan of this match. To me, this felt kind of slow at certain parts, and I was not impressed with this match. This was the right final because the winner of this match would challenge Toni Storm at All In. So looking at it from a storyline perspective, Jamie Hayter would have made the most sense. I thought that they were going to give Jamie the win for the simple fact that a rematch between Mercedes and Athena would have made sense, and there is story with Toni and Jamie. However, they did not do that, and Mercedes Moné actually won this match, which she did not need. She comes out with all the championships. She's the TBS champion. She's run through the entire division undefeated. There would have been more of a story if Jamie had won this match. Closing sequence of this match, Jamie hit a tombstone for 2. Moné hit a DDT and rolled up Jamie for the win. So the finish came out of nowhere, and after the roll-up, Mercedes immediately rolled out of the ring, ran to the top of the stage, and it was pretty much all but confirmed that we were going to get Mercedes versus Toni at All In. Should be a great match. This match, to me, this is the weakest opening AEW has had to one of their pay-per-views all year, and I wasn't very impressed with this match. Up next, FTR with Stokely Hathaway, who made his return to television. No explanation as to where he's been all this time, versus Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. The story of this primarily took place on Collision, which I do not watch, and this match definitely felt like it should have happened on Collision. And this match featured the biggest issue with a lot of the matches on Double or Nothing, is that it went way too long. This tag team match that didn't belong on pay-per-view went over 22 minutes. The opening match went about 18 minutes, and this was the main issue with Double or Nothing last year. Too many matches that went way too long. And again, the same issue this year, if not worse. I don't know why Tony Khan has an obsession with having these shows go 4.5, close to 5 hours. It doesn't make any sense. Less is more. This match definitely felt like a Collision match. Nigel McGuinness, yes, it's great that he's able to wrestle. Again, Daniel Garcia, this man hasn't been featured in anything meaningful since losing the TNT Championship to Adam Cole. FTR heel turn was done well, but now we're 6 weeks out from All In, and how we're gonna get FTR versus Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, I have no idea. Closing sequence of this match, Dax had a sharpshooter locked in the ring. Cash Wheeler took out Matt Menard with a suicide dive, and then he took out Nigel, and in the ring, Daniel Garcia passed out to the sharpshooter. FTR wins, no surprise there. This match went longer than it should have. No reason this match should have gone more than 12 or 13 minutes. But this match had a couple of decent moments and was a fine match, but would have been better if it went just half as long as it did. There was no reason for this match to go over 20 minutes. That is insane. Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe in a stretcher match. This was the first stretcher match in AEW history, and I was interested to see if they would do what WWE does, because WWE's stretcher match, where they have to cross a finish line on the stage, I think that's a little dumb. But the way AEW did this, it was essentially an ambulance match where you had to load your opponent on a stretcher and then toss them into the back of an ambulance. Ricochet came out first. He was cosplaying as Itachi Uchiha from Naruto, so respect to Ricochet there. I'm a big Naruto fan. Mark Briscoe came out next. He grew out his hair. He's got like a mohawk thing going, just out of spite because of Ricochet. I got a laugh out of that. Ricochet attacked Mark Briscoe during his entrance, and we were off to the races from there. Up until this point, I wasn't impressed with Double or Nothing. This match picked up the pace immediately. I enjoyed every minute of this match. This was awesome. Mark Briscoe is criminally underrated. I wish he would be used more prominently. Ricochet, in ring, there is no denying how great Ricochet is, but the character work that he's doing is pretty entertaining. There was a moment where Ricochet missed a shooting star, landed on the stretcher. One of the funniest moments of the night. Mark Briscoe brought out a bucket of cleaning supplies, and he sprayed cleaning spray on Ricochet's head and shined it with a towel. That got a great reaction out of the Arizona crowd, and that made me laugh out loud. That was pretty awesome. Mark Briscoe paid tribute to Sabu. Ricochet then sprayed Mark Briscoe in the eyes. Mark Briscoe was bleeding. He was rammed headfirst into the stretcher. Mark Briscoe was thrown into the ambulance, but he used a crutch to keep the door open. Mark then used a fire extinguisher from inside the ambulance. Mark hit the J-Driller, Froggy Bow off the top to the outside through a table. That was awesome. Ricochet countered a J-Driller on the stage, and he hit Mark with a pair of scissors. Mark then took the scissors out of Ricochet's hand. Ricochet then grabbed another pair of scissors. Ricochet hits a low blow, a shot with the scissors to the head, and the spirit gun, and Ricochet throws Mark Briscoe into the ambulance, and Ricochet beats Mark Briscoe in AEW's first stretcher match. This was incredible. I enjoyed this match a lot more than I thought I would. This was pretty entertaining. I loved this match. This was awesome. Ricochet is great. Mark Briscoe is great. Both guys worked pretty well. I enjoyed this match. I was very entertained by this match. The Hurt Syndicate, Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, with MVP and MJF, versus the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. I mentioned in one of my previous reviews that I was intrigued by the story with MJF, MVP, and the Hurt Syndicate, and I was a fan of the initial start of the story, but I didn't like how desperate MJF looked to join the Hurt Syndicate. MJF officially joined the Hurt Syndicate. That segment where he joined and what happened the week prior, in my opinion, was done really well. Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes are the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. Those championships were not on the line. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe they won a number one contenders match on Collision to earn this opportunity. MVP was on commentary during this match, which was great. MVP is incredible on commentary. I wasn't expecting much from this, but I enjoyed this match. To me, this was a solid match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Not the quality we expect from Tag Team Championship matches, but this was a solid match. The outcome of this match was a surprise to no one. You were not taking the championships off of the Hurt Syndicate. Sammy Guevara, man oh man, 2 years ago, this man challenged for the AEW World Championship, and now he is as directionless gets. Story of this match was with MJF. He tried to interfere, but that ended up backfiring. MVP even called it out on commentary. Spear on Sammy Guevara by Bobby Lashley. Dustin pulled Shelton out of the ring. Dustin countered a spear on the outside, but MJF attacked him. Lashley stopped MJF from attacking Dustin, and he hit a spear on Dustin Rhodes through the barricade. Shelton Benjamin tried to stop a suicide dive, but it looked like Sammy stopped himself. Benjamin was late for that. In the ring, Shelton Benjamin hit a thrust kick on Sammy for the win. Hurt Syndicate retained the Tag Team Championship. championships, no surprise there. This was a fine match, nothing great, but for what this was, this served its purpose. Kazuchika Okada versus Mike Bailey for the AEW Continental Championship. They mentioned on commentary that Mike Bailey was undefeated in singles matches, which right then and there, you knew that he was not winning this match. Not that it was ever in any doubt. Okada is not losing this Continental Championship until we get to All In. This was a very good match. This was an excellent back and forth between Okada and Bailey. Okada's great. Mike Bailey, I've been impressed with his work in AEW so far. One of the best matches of the night, in my opinion. Bailey hit a crane kick and a triangle moonsault to the outside. Very impressive. Okada hit a DDT on the outside and then a DDT in the ring. Okada hit a running kick on Bailey that knocked him out of the ring. Okada hit a baseball slide. Bailey hit a springboard moonsault. Bailey hits a missile drop kick and a running shooting star for a 2 count. Bailey rolled up Okada for a 2 count. Bailey hit a falcon arrow. Okada got his knees up to counter a shooting star. Bailey hit a leg sweep very similar to Mortal Kombat. Bailey hit a backflip knee drop, always impressive. That is a great move. Okada hit a drop kick. Bailey hit 2 spinning kicks. Bailey got a 3 count, but Okada, he grabbed the rope at literally the last possible second. Great timing by Okada. Okada hit 2 lariats. They traded roll-ups for a bit. Closing sequence, Okada countered a shooting star with a drop kick and hit the Rainmaker on Bailey for the win. Okada retained the Continental Championship. No surprise there because might as well talk about this now. This past week's episode of Dynamite, which was Fyter Fest, they officially announced it. Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega for the Continental and the International Championship. Winner takes all. I've mentioned this in almost every AEW video I've made this year, that we're gonna get this at All In, and it's gonna be with both championships on the line, and Tony Khan is going to introduce the AEW Intercontinental Championship. I've called it for months, and it is happening at All In. There is story between Omega and Okada, but Tony Khan and AEW need to present that story on AEW television for us to be fully invested in the match. The matches Omega and Okada had in New Japan were years ago. We need to be told their history and their story on AEW television to be invested in the match at All In. That being said, Okada and Mike Bailey, these two produced an incredible match, one of the best matches of the night. I really enjoyed this match. This was awesome. Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship. Mina won an eliminator match to earn this opportunity. Eliminator matches are one of the worst concepts in the history of professional wrestling. Match started off with submissions and roll-ups being traded. Mina used the ring post as a weapon against Toni Storm. Toni Storm responded by using the ring post as a weapon against Mina Shirakawa. Toni hit a Fisherman Buster for a 2 count. Mina hit the Tornado DDT and a running knee. Luther was a human shield for Toni Storm, and Mina knocked him down and hit a corkscrew dive off his back. Mina then hits a crossbody off the top rope on Luther. Toni hit a DDT on the floor. Mina locked in the figure 4, and Storm immediately went for the ropes. Toni hit Sky High for a 2 count. Mina hit an inverted DDT for a 2 count. Mina reversed Sky High into the figure 4, another rope break. Roll-up straighted, and closing sequence saw a headbutt and Storm Zero by Toni Storm for the win. Toni Storm wins this match. She retains the AEW Women's World Championship. This was a very good match in my opinion. Toni Storm, no question, from a character and in-ring standpoint, the best wrestler in the AEW women's division. Mina Shirakawa, I'm very impressed with her in-ring work. They're two great wrestlers, and there was no doubt that this was going to be a great match. And there is story here, the history with the two of them and Mariah May going back all the way to last year. And Mariah May, who just signed with WWE, making her NXT debut this past week. She is absolutely going to be the next NXT Women's Champion. JC Jane, her days are numbered. So there was story between Storm and Shirakawa. This was a very good match. Toni Storm. She's going into All In as the AEW Women's World Champion. Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. This is no question the biggest match they can do for the Women's Championship. However, I am a little concerned that Toni Storm going into All In, her days might be numbered as the Women's World Champion. Mercedes is a great in-ring worker, but I think putting the AEW Women's World Championship on her at All In is a mistake. I'd have Toni Storm win, and I'd revisit this match probably sometime at the end of the year, maybe next year. But I am not taking the Women's World Championship off of Toni Storm just to put it on Mercedes Moné. I think that's a mistake. The match between Storm and Shirakawa, though, that was very good. Anarchy in the Arena. The Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Marina Shafir, with the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, versus The Ops, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, the AEW World Trios Champions, Swerve Strickland, Kenny Omega, AEW International Champion, and Willow Nightingale. We had that terrible finish at Dynasty. The Young Bucks claim, "We did it for Hangman." Then, Samoa Joe and the Ops got involved. We got that trios match, but Hook got taken out and was replaced by Powerhouse Hobbs, and the Ops beat the Death Riders to become the AEW World Trios Tag Team Champions. That led to a match between Samoa Joe and Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. I was hoping that would be the end of Jon Moxley's reign, but I knew it wasn't going to be the case. Samoa Joe brought Moxley arguably to his best match as the AEW World Champion. The Steel Cage match was pretty solid, but again, the finish was awful with Gabe Kidd getting involved. What Gabe Kidd has to do with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, I have no idea. I absolutely would have put the belt back on Samoa Joe. In any case, after that World Championship match, we got a bunch of run-ins and beatdowns and this and that, which ultimately led us to this point at Anarchy in the Arena. Anarchy in the Arena, in my opinion, this year was unnecessary. It's always a fun match, but the story wasn't enough to justify Anarchy in the Arena. But that being said, I enjoyed every minute of this match. One of the most entertaining matches of the year, and no question, best match of the night on AEW Double or Nothing 2025. There is no way I'm going to be able to do this match justice. You have to go out of your way to watch this match at some point. This match was incredible. So many things happened. This match was chaos personified. Kenny Omega came out to Battle Cry, loved it. Battle Cry is an awesome song. Death Riders entered through the crowd, but Samoa Joe, he ambushed Claudio from the back. Young Bucks came out in full Founding Fathers cosplay, because that's their thing. The Founding Fathers of AEW, they were carrying a Founding Fathers flag, and they were attacked on the stage by Swerve and Omega. And our opening song was this revolutionary drum beat. After the drum beats played for a while, we got a change up with "I'm So Excited" playing on the PA system, which got a laugh out of me. The Faces cleared the ring. Kenny Omega then called for 2000s rock and "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" hit the PA system, and this song played on a loop for a while, folks. Swerve hit a drop suplex on a chair. Hobbs drove Moxley through a table in the corner. Nicholas hit a running knee on Swerve. Willow and Maria are brawling on the outside. Willow broke a bottle on Marina's head. Shibata threw Yuta into a bin and then rammed it into a metal door. Shibata wrapped barbed wire around his shin and he was kicking Yuta. The Young Bucks hit a double DDT on the stage on Swerve. Omega hit the Bucks with a trash can. Swerve hit a house call. Claudio hit an uppercut on Swerve. Claudio hit the swing on Swerve and he threw Swerve into the speakers, killing the music. Hobbs hit a shoulder tackle on Claudio through road cases. Hobbs was taken out by a dive. Marina used a frying pan to attack Willow. The Bucks countered a Terminator dive and then hit a stomp on Omega as he was perched on the ropes and he fell through a table. Willow was then locked against the ring post. The Bucks hit a dive on Shibata on the outside. Nicholas hit a senton off the stage through a table on Hobbs. Claudio choked out Joe with a flag. The Bucks and Moxley attack Hobbs on the stage. Prince Nana drove Swerve to the stage on a forklift, and Swerve hit a stomp from the forklift on the Young Bucks. Hobbs hit 3 spinebusters. Nana freed Willow. Hobbs and Willow hit stereo spinebusters. 4 submissions locked in the ring by Moxley, Joe, Shibata, and Maria. All the holds are broken up. Matthew used a staple gun on Hobbs. Hobbs laughed. Swerve then used the staple gun on all the Death Riders. Swerve then used the staple gun on Matthew. Marina hit a low blow and used the staple gun on Swerve. Willow hit 4 spears. That was awesome. Kenny Omega hit 4 Snapdragon suplexes, which were awesome. The Young Bucks then hit 7 double super kicks, which was also awesome. Swerve and Willow took out the Young Bucks. Joe came in to clean house. Hook came out with a golf club and used that to take out Claudio. He stared down Samoa Joe and didn't help beyond that. Samoa Joe hit a muscle buster and locked in the coquina clutch. Gabe Kidd then came out to try and make the save. Kidd hit a pile driver on Kenny Omega. Wheeler Yuta, he put thumbtacks in Kenny Omega's mouth. EVP trigger on Kenny Omega. Swing dropkick combination by the Death Riders. Bulldog choke on Omega by Moxley. Samoa Joe made the save. Mark Briscoe hit a dive off the stage on Moxley. That was awesome. The Ops, Willow Nightingale, and Mark Briscoe then lock all of the Death Riders and Gabe Kidd in the ambulance. The ambulance never left the arena, so was Mark Briscoe just there the entire time? So in the ring, it's the Young Bucks against Swerve and Omega. V-Trigger and House Call by Omega and Swerve. Omega and Matthew go to the outside, so it's just Nicholas and Swerve in the ring. Swerve switched out his shoes to ones that had thumbtacks on the bottom. Omega hit a one-winged angel off the stage through a table, which exploded. And then finally, closing sequence of the match. Swerve stomp on Nicholas Jackson, and Team AEW gets the win. This was an incredible match. Best match of the night. One of the most entertaining matches of the year. This was absolutely awesome. Jon Moxley, being that the championship wasn't on the line, obviously is going to enter All In as the AEW World Champion. This was an entertaining match. This was pretty awesome. The Paragon, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong versus the Don Callis family. Kyle Fletcher, Josh Alexander, Konosuke Takeshita. This match absolutely should have taken place on Collision. I have no idea why this match was put on this show. The Paragon, former Undisputed Kingdom, and more importantly, former Undisputed Era. I feel so bad for these guys. These are 3 of the best wrestlers in the world, and they are in a nothing 6-man tag team match. Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole are all better than this. Adam Cole, I genuinely feel bad for the guy. Don Callis family are once again in the middle of nothing. Josh Alexander made his debut as the wild card in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, lost his debut match to Hangman Adam Page. Personally, I think he should have signed with WWE, maybe reformed the North with Ethan Page, but is what it is. One of the surprising highlights of this match to me was Lance Archer on commentary. Lance Archer's commentary was very good. Don Callis is always incredible on commentary, but Lance Archer on commentary, he was surprisingly very good on commentary. And if Tony Khan is not going to use him as a wrestler, why not use him on commentary? I am not going to go over this match. This was a meaningless match that should have taken place on Collision. Closing sequence of this match saw Kyle Fletcher hit a brainbuster on Kyle O'Reilly for the win. The Don Callis family win. Post-match, rest of Don Callis family come out to attack the Paragon. And then, to make the save, Brody King, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroshi Tanahashi come out to make the save. Tanahashi hit a couple of sling blades, and Adam Cole hit lower the boom on Kyle Fletcher to close out this segment. Fletcher and Cole actually had a TNT championship match on Dynamite with one of the scariest bumps of the year. Adam Cole not getting injured off of that botch is a miracle. This match was meaningless. It happened. Let's move on. The Men's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Finals. Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay beat Kevin Knight and Konosuke Takeshita to earn his spot in the finals. Adam Page beat Josh Alexander and Kyle Fletcher. Very good hype package. And the promo these two had on Dynamite was excellent. Both guys had vignettes play prior to their entrances. Will Ospreay's vignette, in my opinion, was the better of the two, and the way it led to his theme song, in my opinion, was excellent. And this match was the right choice to main event, and you really could have given it to either guy. However, I think the crowd would have had more energy if this took place earlier. Too many matches that went way too long on this show. Tony Khan really needs to cut down on the number of matches he puts on these major shows. Ospreay took control early, they exchanged forearms, great series of counters by the two of them. Ospreay hit a standing sky twister for a 1. Ospreay hit a springboard phenomenal forearm. Hangman caught a springboard crossbody and hit a follow-away slam. Another follow-away slam against the turnbuckles. 2 back suplexes by Hangman. Page mocked Ospreay with some kicks. They exchanged forearms. Hangman got the better of that exchange. Ospreay hit Stundog Millionaire, corkscrew kick, Sasuke special, and a great Blue Thunder Bomb for a 2 count. I mentioned in my review of Battleground that there's no one in WWE that can string together a chain of moves quite like Stephanie Vaquer. There is no one in AEW that can chain together a string of moves like Will Ospreay. Hangman hit an Arihara moonsault, always great. Hangman hit a powerbomb for a 2 count, then locked in the sharpshooter. Ospreay made it to the ropes. Ospreay hit a mule kick. Hangman hit a clothesline. Ospreay hit a standing Spanish fly, and then Ospreay hit the Nando's kick, and then Hangman hit a buckshot lariat. Ospreay countered a second attempt at a buckshot lariat. Ospreay hit a shooting star on Hangman for 2. Hangman caught the Oscutter, hit a tombstone for a 2 count. Page countered a Styles Clash, hit the Angel's Wings. Hangman missed the BME. Ospreay hit Hidden Blade. Ospreay hit an apron powerbomb and a Styles Clash on the floor, which looked devastating. Ospreay made it back into the ring by the count of 7. Hangman made it back into the ring by the count of 9. Another thing I want to give Tony Khan credit for, the wrestler making it back into the ring by the 9 count. Only happened on one match, which was this one. Only happened one time, which was this moment, and 100% justified. So Tony Khan apparently is listening to the criticism. So good on you, TK. I'm gonna give you another positive for that one. Ospreay hits an Oscutter. Hangman kicks out at 2. Ospreay hits Hidden Blade. Hangman kicks out at 2. Ospreay rammed Hangman's head on the announce table. Flashback to his match against Kenny Omega. Hangman went for the Deadeye, but the table collapsed under the weight of Ospreay and Hangman, but Ospreay was mid-rotation, which looked even more devastating than if he had hit the actual Deadeye. Page then hits a Deadeye anyway on the remains of the announce table. Ospreay collapsed in the ring, but he pulled himself up. The two of them stare down. Hangman is about to go for the buckshot, and Ospreay is about to go for the Hidden Blade. They both run at each other, but Ospreay, it looked like he didn't even get his elbow up in time, so it looked like he just ran straight into the buckshot lariat. I love Will Ospreay, best in-ring performer in the world in my opinion, but this did make him look a little dumb. Ospreay hit Hidden Blade and Stormbreaker for a 2 count. Hangman collapsed. Ospreay missed the Hidden Blade. Ospreay hit a V-trigger. Hangman countered a one-winged angel attempt into big pressure, rope break. Series of counters that ended with Hangman hitting the buckshot lariat, and that was the end of this match. That buckshot lariat beat Will Ospreay. Hangman Adam Page is the #1 contender for the AEW World Championship, our all-in main event for July 12th. Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. We got the graphic made. Post-match, show of respect between Hangman and Ospreay. The two of them shake hands. A bunch of reports came out. Page reportedly lobbied for Ospreay to win the match. Ospreay reportedly lobbied for Hangman to win the match. Tony Khan was reportedly undecided on who was going to win the match, and it was Jon Moxley that made the call for Hangman to win the match. Whatever the case may be, Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley is our main event for All In. This was a very good match, second best match of the night in my opinion, just behind Anarchy in the Arena. And that was AEW Double or Nothing 2025. Did the show go too long? Yes. Were there too many matches on this show? Also yes. But this was a very good wrestling show in my opinion, and to me, the best pay-per-view that AEW has produced in 2025 for the simple fact that the main event was not terrible. This was AEW's best pay-per-view of 2025 so far. I want to send a message to Tony Khan and the AEW creative team. Your all-in main event is booked. Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley. There is only one outcome to Jon Moxley versus Adam Page at All in Texas. Jon Moxley has to lose the AEW World Championship to Hangman. This Death Rider storyline has killed AEW, and it will take a long time to rebuild the trust you've lost. next. If Jon Moxley leaves Texas as the AEW World Champion, Tony Khan needs to step down from creative. There is no way this Death Rider storyline can continue past July 12th after everything that's happened for the last 8 months. This storyline has killed AEW. Jon Moxley needs to lose the championship, the stable needs to disband, and we all need to collectively erase this storyline from our memories. The main event between Hangman and Ospreay. Great match. Overall, AEW Double or Nothing 2025, very good show, and for the most part, a very enjoyable, very entertaining, very fun show. And that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me on Instagram at Said_2000, and I will see you on the next video. Till then, take care.